Hey, everyone, we're about to begin. If you could take a seat and start in conference. Jump over here. Is it for presenter? Do it.
It's basically like, yeah, email me. Yeah, send me a message on LinkedIn.
That was me.
Just one line or two lines. It'll help you. You know you're not. All right, thank you, everyone. Get your attention, please. That domain is about that. All right, I'm just going to pass over the government from Jane.
So a big thank you for all making waves here on. You know, it's a little bit more distracting than CBD. So big thank you. It's lovely to have you all here. Wanted to say that any drinks and video there, make sure you put them in there. You are able to recycle them. And I was going to say something about mates, but it's already been out, so it work that. So toilets are, if you just head out of that door there and follow the footpath around to the right, you'll see some signs, just keep following them using the toilets. And then finally, we are hiring. We are building this is working on our mobile app at the moment. So if anyone wants to hear a bit more about what Life at Domain is like, contact myself or Kelly, Marius, Mom, Duncan, Pat, who are over there, Duncan there. And so contact some of us and have a lovely evening. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, so hello and welcome to June paper for the UC month. Great to see everyone in person again. All right, thanks. All right, so to begin with, I'd like to acknowledge the able people who are actually the traditional custodians of the land and pay my respects to elders both past and present. Thank you. All right, a bit of housekeeping to begin with, as we always start with. Thank you. So I'm Zach. Hey, we're going to meet you up front here at CocoaHeads, and I'll, well, if you have any questions or concerns throughout the night, please feel free to get in touch with any of us. We help organize CocoaHeads, and we also hope you have a good night. As always, a big thank you to our sponsors who help make this event possible. They cover our costs and allow us to do what we do. And this month they are Biru and Domain. Good round of applause for Domain in this space. It's wonderful. Many thanks to Domain for helping us out. So a reminder, as always, that CocoaHeads has a code of conduct. It boils down to 3 key points that you can read in full on the website. They are be respectful, be inclusive, and be aware. If there's any problems you experience tonight, please feel free to get in touch with myself, Carl, or Nikki, and we'll take that consensus. A reminder that we have a Slack community. So for those following along at home, feel free to sign into the Slack group and join the discussion there. But for those of you in the room as well, feel free to jump on the Slack group and participate in the discussion with those who can't be here tonight. As always, big welcome to first time attendees who's chatting for the first time tonight. Welcome. If you have any feedback in tonight, feel free to let me know. I can do better. And so a big announcement, next week we're having a special event at the IDM offices. It's on Thursday night. And it's happening at 24th June at IDM, so it's in the CBD. There's an event page on Meetup, which I assume you're all on Meetup and you know the details for that. Spots are extremely limited. Last I checked, we have about 14 spaces available. So RSVPs are opening tomorrow at 9 AM. So make a quick note if you're interested in attending that. You will include it on the RSVPs. Heavily limited, but we are looking forward to that with a couple of great security and supports. Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. And if you like what you see tonight, feel free to check out Melbourne CocoaHeads. They do similar thing to what we do a monthly meetup. They are running it on the second Thursday of the month, and they're still live streaming on YouTube at the moment. So enjoy this, definitely check that out. Well worth a watch. And we also have the Peer Lab returning this evening. The Peer Lab was happening before COVID, from like June or June, back there. I've been told it's returning soon. This slide did have a date until about half an hour ago, but I guess keep your eyes peeled to meet up on the Saturday morning at Cafe in Surrey Hill. You can take your laptop and have a chat with people about all things development. All right, so on to tonight's schedule. We have highlights in WWDC by Adam. Very much looking forward to this one. It's a big class. Our second talk is digital restoration by Mal. Also looking forward to that. We'll also have a break and get into our hiring section where if you're looking for work or if you are looking to hire, put your hand up and give a little 10 seconds feel about yourself or role. And then following the break, we're going to have a panel discussion for our themed WWDC. So talking about all things that happen to WWDC and what that means for people working with that. So I'm looking forward to all of that. And then looking ahead to next month, we're still looking for talks. Happening on the third Thursday of the month, as usual. Locations to be decided. We'll post it on Meetup and post it on the Slack as soon as we know. We'll probably post that about a week out as usual. Yeah, if you're interested in giving a talk, please let me know. Send me a message and we can hopefully make that happen. So, I'm now going to hand over to Adam for his talk. Thank you.
I'm going to put my testing. Is that working?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, now the real part. Does that work?
You're up. Well, that's good.
Okay. Hang on.
Is your second slide exactly the same as the first one?
No, it's not. This worked earlier when I tested, but yeah, you're gonna have to use it there. Okay. Hello, everybody. I have a script. Sorry, I have worked to. I tried. So, I'm Adam. I'm from Canberra. I used to be from Sydney. If you recognise me, I used to be, but I don't anymore. And I tried to run these in Canberra. We'll go back, way back. Start there, that's fine. My name's Adam. I used to live in Sydney. I tried to run these in Canberra. I would get one person attending. So this is great and a little bit scared, but
Welcome, Adam.
thank you. So thank you very much for inviting me to talk at the Sydney CocoaHeads. Like I said, the Canberra one, not really that great. Anyway, I have been working at all homes for the last 3.5 years as a lead mobile developer. Sorry. All right. But it's fine. In that time, I have been modernizing a very old Objective-C code base and making it Swift and modernizing it. That's the All Homes logo. You guys from Sydney don't know what the hell All Homes is. It's kind of like Domain. It's just cut down and focused on camera. So, you know, we have listings, we have rentals. It's great. Before I worked at Canberra and All Homes, I worked for Fairfax, where I worked on the Sydney Morning Herald and the 8 Hub. Cool. And before working at the big Fairfax fancy place, I worked at a little digital agency where I was able to experiment and build really cool things. And I'm going to my speech because it's better. So anyway, I was able to do lots of different things from photo and video effects, video composites, playing with iBeacons, playing with new cardboard, and yes, some fancy video composites and stuff. And the last one, this cool Woolies taste of home thing that we shipped out to 600, I think, devices that we control. So anyway, on to today's topic. WWDC 2021. So like most of you, I'm assuming, I don't actually know, I've not asked everyone. I woke up at 3 in the morning, like an idiot, but hey, whatever. Maybe not an idiot, you know, we love it. And we watched the Q&A live. How many? 200 hands? Yeah, see, we're not idiots. We're cool guys, right? We're girls. It's okay, we're just trying to contact. All right, so a couple of disclaimers. This is not a full list because there are over 200 videos and I'm a single person and I've still got work to do at all homes. And I don't even have the betas installed because I've got stuff to do and for reasons I don't want to. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry. For reasons I haven't installed the beta because I need things to work and I can release. So now the disclaimers. Also, some of the screenshots you'll see from the Hacking Smith What's New Let's Code. So credit to Paul Hudson over there. And the other slides are from WWDC videos that I have referenced the names on the slide. So with that out of the way, let's start with the big one. Xcode 13. If you want, go download it and install it alongside your current environment. I have been told that Xcode 13 is 33 gigabytes to download. So enjoy that unzip. We're getting a few knots, so that's good. Xcode 13 looks really good. Lots of UI. We really just need a long cable, don't we? It looks much easier. It's okay. Like I said, alongside your normal environment. So yeah, you can do lots of cool things. We can move our warnings and errors to a scroll. I got the slide. Doesn't matter. That's it. That's the gift. No. There's the gift. That's the gift for everyone. So we can move our warnings to the side. Or we can have them in our face. I like them in the face, but anyway. Thank you. Xcode can now suggest autocomplete is amazing in this thing. So it can go 2 levels down. I don't know if you've seen that. That's pretty cool. And the next one, please. The autocomplete, it's great. It can suggest from the plural. So the goose and geese example is great. Machine learning at its finest. And the next one, please. Auto conditional unwrapping just makes your day much easier. The other thing that I want to show is we can now put a breakpoint on the comma, also on the full stop, the column, which means that when you break there, your inspection thing that you have will have this array of predicate, which is really cool because if you're linking a bunch of higher order functions, you can put the breakpoint where we need to. Also, Xcode supports Vim. I'm not one of those cool kids, but if you are, you have the option. And a bunch of other source code improvements and a bunch of other things. Again, go watch the video because there's so much that has changed. Onto Xcode Cloud. I wasn't able to get into the beta of Xcode Cloud, but according to the Apple website, Xcode Cloud is a continuous integration and delivery service built into Xcode, designed expressly for Apple developers. So, yeah, us. Who knows how much this is going to cost? But I'm guessing it's going to be competitive to stay competitive against things like CI and Travis and everyone else. The other thing that they released or announced is .c, which looks really cool. Yeah, cool. If you shipped a framework, please use this. Ship your comments and stuff in .c. As somebody who builds the All Homes app and maintains it, I'm not 1000% sure that I can use this for the next guy or gal. But this is really good for people like all the other framework developers. Yeah, cool. And so there's a lot of other stuff, but that's what I had time to talk about. So onto the API level stuff. Ooh, okay. So SF symbol has colors and there's more SF symbols to add to your designs, and that's all great. UI button is going to have a new configuration with 3 new styles, so the gray, tinted, and filled. And it also supports dynamic type and multi-line support. Thank goodness. I don't know about you guys, but I was really happy when I saw that. So you get all these options. It looks good. And then Swift UI improvements. I don't actually use Swift UI yet, but maybe one day I will. But it's really matured a lot. You've got swipe to show the menu, which, as talking to some of you guys today, you seem really happy about that, so that's good. And there's the video link too, sorry. And the next one is search bar in your list, which I feel like should have been there before, but it's there now, so happy days. And now, on to the big one. The big one. We got it, guys. System dot round in iOS. But seriously, hasten away. Yes, everyone's favorite. All right. It looks really cool and will make your code much easier to read and maintain. To explain this better, let's look at a typical networking function that I got from the WWDC video. So there's download an image. So we'll start at the top and we'll do a request and then tap and we'll get a task, great, and then tap again and then we'll jump to the bottom. Okay, fine. I get it. We all understand what this is doing. We understand why. Let's my script. So at some indeterminate time in the future, when the response comes back, we'll go up there. But if I don't have one of them, I apologize. And if the data that we request failed, we'll throw an error, we'll get an error, and we'll complete there, and that's it, game done. But if that works, but the status code on 200, we'll jump ahead, it's okay. We'll do the section completion handler. And then if we get down to this else statement, we've got data, but maybe not an image. So we'll check that it's an image, and if it's not an image, we die. And then the next one, we have an image, but this prepare thumbnail function could fail, so we'll die there. And then, assuming everything worked perfectly, we complete this one. There, we complete. Woo, okay, good. So that's what we do today. And we sort of just said, okay, that's what we're doing. Everyone's happy with it. But in the future, async away. Look at it, it's amazing. We'll start at the top. We'll basically do everything we did in the same order, but instead of going up and down and then back down again, we just flow, just tap, tap, tap. Oh, there's my look again. Oh, actually, my bad. Sorry, should have read that feed. Okay. Anyway, yes, a single way. Still takes an ID as the key input of the function, but it will, it's marked as async, and it could either throw an exception or it will return a UI image. So that's what I've demoed there. Sorry, tap. Yep, so we will await for our data and response. When we eventually get it, we can check that the status code is 200, and if it's not, we'll throw, and if it is, we'll try to get an image out of the data. And if we can get an image out of the data, we return the image. Otherwise, we've already thrown out an error. So it's a lot cleaner. Great. So again, there are heaps of developer videos that will explain this much better than I have. Sorry, keep going. One more, two more, two more. Yeah, one more. I really wish I had control. So sorry. So async await. There are heaps of videos on WWDC's video section. Please. Sorry. Really regret that now. So there's this one which I think wrote those that example from, and then there's like 3 or 4 others. So thank you. Yeah. So so all that API stuff does sound super exciting. I can't wait to be able to get to that in like 2 to 3 years. Because as I mentioned earlier, I work all over that. Currently still support iOS 12. So as exciting as WWDC 2021 was, I won't be able to use those API changes till about 2024. So cool. All right. If you're working on your own personal project, yeah, that's the one. Thank you. If you're working on your own personal project, or you control the hardware that your app is going to go on, go nuts. You know, set your target to 15, and off you go. And you'll be able to use new features like Swift UI, Xsimple Way, XF symbols, colors, all that good fun stuff. But if you're maintaining a production app like I am, and I'm guessing most of you, you'll have to wait a little while. But it's not all doom and gloom. I will soon be dropping support for iOS 12. Cool. And then that will introduce a whole bunch of stuff that was introduced in iOS 13 and WWDC 2019. Woo! Such as native dark mode. Yeah. Swift UI, although a limited version. Independent watch apps. Maybe not. And native text detection and recognition. That one I actually will be using because I'm using Firebase ML kit, and that's going to get thrown out one day. And also XF symbols, so I can start using prettier icons instead of hassling my designer for the PDFs. So thank you. That's been my speech. I hope I think I did okay. I don't know. Any questions? We'll do questions at the end of that. Okay.
So, given that you're not embracing Swift UI, what would your sort of favorite takeaway?
Oh, async away, definitely. Like,
And you're still planning on waiting for 2023?
yes, I will be.
Is there anything you're actually excited about?
Xcode 13, like I'll be able to use that in September, and like use use that as my daily driver, so that'll be great. You know, I've watched a lot of the videos, like, you know, while looking after kids and everything else. But Extra 13 is always the thing that I'm spending 90% of my day in, and any improvements that you have that they can release that will improve, you know, just quality of life, design, you know, that's the biggest thing, I think. The APIs are great, and like I said, I'll be able to use them eventually, and the stuff that was released 2 years ago is still great. So like, I'm not sad or disappointed by WWC. It's a great year. You want it to be a stable, you know, release year after year. You don't want to be breaking, them releasing something that breaks through your code, and then you're spending weeks or months fixing stuff that used to work. Like, I was slow to adopt Swift. Apparently, I'm glad that I did. Well, no, what I'm saying is we did Swift 2 or 3, and then they changed it on one, yeah? We got a lot of work, right? And now I can just release the new feature after the new feature. Anyway, anyone else got a question? Can I hand this off, please? Thank you. Wow. Yeah, you're the native. Testing. Front row seats, guys. Front row seats. Everyone, are we ready? Hey all, so I'm Kamal, I'm the mobile technology leader at Domain, and that basically means I take care of mobile stuff. So during lockdown, I serendipitously started a new project, so a chance encounter with a friend, and it's just like a little bit of story about that project. Let's see if the apple can come up. There you go. Okay, so it's around 2011. There were big iPhones that just come out. Xcode looks like that. The installer didn't work very well. You don't see that. Just trying to install the thing. Jinx it.
Oh, it's that. What's that? All right, let's try it. Right, yeah. So that was the installer. And sometimes we rain. See how Excel came on a lot actually between then and now. Looking at these presentations. But at the same time, there was a company in San Francisco who were basically 4 people. They got together and they wanted to create a company to do data visualization. I think it was actually quite forward-thinking at the time. This was like going on 10 years ago. We all know how important data is today, but those guys were doing it 10 years ago. And they wanted to make it accessible to lots of people and interesting. And yeah, so these are the original founders, Ben, Tom, Jessica, and Robert. And their first project was an application called Planetary. The idea of Planetary was that it would represent your music collection as a galaxy, your iTunes music collection at the time. And the idea was that artists would be represented as stars, albums would be planets that rotate around the stars, and the moons were represented in tracks and they rotate around the planets. It was written in a framework called Cinder. That's a creative coding framework. I'll talk about that later if you're interested. It was written in C++, and it was written with OpenGL immediate mode. It's quite old school way to do that this time. So we launched on the App Store in 2011 and had a lot of media coverage. It was in Wired magazine, it was on the Gadget Show. It was in all kinds of blogs and things like that. And we got downloaded about 7 million times, which is quite huge at the time, because iPad hadn't been out very long. Yeah, just iPad downloads. And it was free, no advertising. Yeah, it's amazing. It was something free. Unfortunately, we went out of business in 2012. Kind of explains it, right? Okay. Everyone went their own way, and there's no further development on that, so it was there for intents and purposes. But at the same time, Ben, one of the founders, he was basically knew somebody at the Computer Museum. And that person was called Seb. And Seb happens to be Australian. He was living in New York at the time, working for the Smithsonian Museum. He's now actually working in Melbourne at the ACMI, which is the Australian Museum of the Information. And then Bloom agreed to lend him code to the museum for free. They love doing things. It's really amazing for the Smithsonian is their first digital acquisition. Actually, I think it's possibly one of the first acquisitions of source code in the entire world. And yeah, everyone there was really excited to do that. It was an experiment in how source code could be maintained and archived to last through the ages. It's not like, the Mona Lisa is quite easy to preserve, but how do you preserve something like this? Well, this is how they did it. The source code is provided on GitHub with an open source license. The license is incredibly open. You can do whatever you want with it. Commercial use, absolutely. You didn't have to contribute to that either if you wish to. It was quite an amazing achievement because the legal council of the museum, they somehow caught stuff, don't know how, but they did. And they commissioned 2 iPads, so 2 iPad 1s, I think it was, and installed Planetary on it. And the source code was printed on paper. Yeah, it's lots of stuff. It's C++ as well. And they archived it, and it's put in this cupboard. And it's stayed there since until now. I haven't really opened it since. It's been locked away, and sort of fireproof room, and dehumidifiers, all that kind of stuff. So time passed, 7 years went by,
And they had plans here on display at the museum. They had another iPad as a display machine. And people came and saw it and played around with it. But the iPad broke eventually. I think it was on continuously for like 7 or 8 years. Broke eventually. The museum asked if Tom would come in and see if he could read part of the source code and get it working again, so he could put on exhibition. But he didn't have any access, unfortunately. And in 2009, in May 2019, the museum did a blog post, one of the creators and the digital translations of the museum did a blog post basically saying that the project was failed and that the idea of open source and working there. Really amazing time because in June 2019, I met a friend of mine at an off-roading club, so I do off-roading, record it all this time. Stay there. And yeah, so my friend Pepe, he basically had an old iPad around the same time, and he kept the iPad around just like that. He was absolutely loving it. He was just very happy all the time, and he found out that I was an iOS developer, and he asked me if I could fix it. He let me know that the source code. I mean, he knew nothing about code, by the way, but somehow he found his way to GitHub and downloaded it. I don't know how he done it. He got super excited when I met him, and being iOS developer, I wanted to show off. Well, yeah, quite awesome. So we can. So download that code, open the project, infinite number of warnings, and infinite number is absolutely horrible. And at that point, I realized I hadn't done a Git recursive run. And so I did that, but nothing changed. It's exactly the same. So before you click through, I just want to ask the audience, so if you're faced with that, I don't know if you get the answer right, but if you were faced with that situation, is there anything, what would your first time exactly? Like a really old code-based 2012.
It's still all mixed, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you find out and still virtual machine. When it comes to old macOS, when it comes to old Xcode. It's too hard. Because actually, even on virtual machines, that's not what run on the hardware. Actually, funny enough, that's the same idea that Tom had when he was asked to compare and try to do the same thing. So, being an engineer, I decided that it'd be easier to just rewrite it, right? It's the easiest solution to start there. Started writing that with Mel, a bit of C as well. Spotify, I tried to do Spotify integration because everyone's on Spotify now. So that was a crazy idea. It was like a huge shock to try and build one. And actually, the aesthetic of it and all that kind of stuff was lost. And also, it took away from the original artwork, the original work. It was no longer that piece of work. So it just didn't feel like it was big. So I took a long break. COVID came along. I told my friend Pepe that he was out of the whole stuff iPad for it. And I was like, what's this? Imagine and put a bit of time on him. I started to tackle the problem again with the original code base. But this time I started trying to do things a little bit different. Trying to be very deliberate and very pragmatic about my fixes. That's pragmatism. So that's me squizzing an Objective-C function. Because I couldn't access the proposed authenticator auto hidden function on the view controller because it was a static library. So the only way I could actually override that function was to create my own function and swizzle it. So this is Colombo. Does anyone not know who Colombo is? This is the best technique in the world in the solve all crimes. Just click through a lot. So these are all the things I had to fix. There was architectural issues, so like hints and things like that. Project file settings, compiler, C++ compiler, all that kind of stuff was broken. Touches were broken. I didn't have any idea which version of libraries they'd use because there's no documentation or anything like that. And all of the libraries, they haven't actually shipped the libraries with the original source code. They kind of figured that you just go to the website and download it, I guess. But 10 years ago, so they're not there anymore. As we built the GL code, there was deprecated functions. One of the deprecated functions is quite interesting, is the set orientation method. That got deprecated in iOS 8, which is fine because deprecation, they carry on working, right? iOS 13 they turned into a null. So thanks for that. Thanks. And 1,000 of students. So there's some benefits and successions to do work edit. Added emphasize to the code. Everything will be faster. I can't really say benefit that. You know, my iPad M1 was a bit quicker than previous iPad. There's some basic support for the added layers, and we also got one of the downsides, can't win the simulator. The static libraries are original code to have modern simulators that we use. I reckon we can probably get it working a bit better, but just do this in my time when I could plug in my phone, do it that way. And you can't go back in time and get the history, which is a real shame, because if you go back in time, you can see some of the design choices they made in the past, like just the UX point of view, and that kind of thing. You could run it. You can't do that anymore. You can't run those old things. You can only run it on microphones. So I'll give you a quick demo now. Does anyone have a favorite band? Could be one of my favorite bands. So this is planetary. So this is the galaxy. So each of the artists in the Apple Music collection is represented as a star in the galaxy. It's built up by letters. So you can see all the different got some Australian. And we go to D because one of my colleagues likes this band. It's anyway, so this is the Disturbed star system. So these are their albums that circulate around the star. You can click on one of the albums, we're going. So see that? See the events for the other? The best thing about planetary is when you have a few days at home and you stream it to TV. So what consistent around the star, duration of the that. Over to surface. All right, well that's a quick overview. No download this is free, by the way. You can go and play around the source code. So I'm just going to go to the last couple of slides. This is going to source. Cool. So I did a tweet on the 30th of May this year, or last year, sorry, and Tom, one of the original developers, found the tweet. And I just quickly said and found it. He tweeted all of his old colleagues, which is pretty cool. I think he must have been watching the hashtag planetary stuff for the last 8 or 9 years. And that's a chain of events, which is really, really cool. So I have meetings with the museum to talk about work I've done, And they documented the changes and then did an interview with me and they added that stuff basically into the archive. So that's sort of museum really interested in that. I had Zoom calls with the original team. Turned out that Tom is actually one of the founding engineers of a Square now. So after he left military, when Joyce Square started down. Got a lot of swag. They added me to their membership list, which is really cool. They gave me free entry to all their cocktail parties and stuff in New York. But what good that's going to do? Stuck here for years. And I contributed to all this code and some backstory. And it's possible to do it. So there's some lessons I learned doing this. I think maybe they only apply to projects that you're going to program. But I found that stuff where we're relying on things like that tends to break after 5, 6, 7, 10 years. Don't rely on anything third party. It's not a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't available anymore. I ended up with this really Frankenstein mess of stuff. Bundle specific versions of libraries with the project. It doesn't work well. And actually, even if I didn't have any of the stuff, if I had some documentation, I might be able to get it further faster. And don't wait it is. So why did I do this presentation? Well, it was fun. It was not sharp. And we have internal skill set engineers. And it took 8 years for the museum to find someone to come along to do this. Every single person in this room of their career will end up with quite a unique set of skills. That's unique to them as individuals because you've got interests and things like that. So one of my original jobs was as a games developer, and I was a games developer a very long time ago, which is why I knew that we obviously OpenGL code. No one does it anymore, but I do it. And it was my own purpose. CocoaHeads? I've got some CocoaHeads. And side projects, we often see side projects as a way to get a side money or something, and that's where we get it's nice to make some side money. But actually, they end up usually not making a lot of school. And I personally found that I've got a lot of joy and satisfaction from doing this, and I've got contacts and some good friends. I learned a lot about museums. So look at open source projects to contribute to, especially small ones. Work. Maybe first we'll help out with this if you want some time. I like to abstract data models so we can represent any kind of 3D data. The museum really want to try and represent their items collection that they have at the museum. Maybe some Spotify YouTube inspiration, update it to the modern rendering pipeline, like pencil, maybe. Anyone's a metal expert. It's quite tricky compared to OpenGL, unfortunately, but still. An Apple TV version, Mac OS version, again, the OpenGL, mess that up. Cascas doesn't work for OpenGL, unfortunately. Support secondary screens and other languages. I had a Russian person send me a message because his weird Russian music collection would work because also characters just wasn't showing. And reading, if anyone's interested in digging a bit deeper, there's some articles that were written about this. Go into a bit more detail than what I talked about tonight. You can download the source code from those places. So I'll send it to that size. And if you're interested in knowing about creative coding or anything like that, there's some really good frameworks that you can use. These are cross-platform technologies actually, because they're C++. But they work on iPads, iPhones, Windows, Mac, whatever you want to use them. Cinder, open frameworks, there's not much between them, they're very similar things. And if you want to check out some really cool work, check out all projects. The whole planetary is creative vision. And yeah, things will be beautiful. He's done a lot of really cool projects since then as well. He has a studio. And SDK is really good for creative coding, but really great for OpenGL, so you can find the various entries. It's still some cool stuff. That's it. Any questions?
Real great talk, thank you. You mentioned that it's available. Did you mean the source code is available or it's available in the App Store?
Oh, you can download the app right now if you wish on iPad. If you've got an Apple Music collection, it'll work. If you don't have an Apple Music collection, that's Spotify, it won't work. It's a little bit buggy still. I'd like to say that actually one interesting thing is that some of the bugs that exist now are based around sort of race conditions and things like that. Just application. And that's kind of, I suppose it's kind of expected when you consider how the hardware used to be really, really slow. And now it's really, really fast. And there was a whole bunch of multi-threading and things like that going on in C++. So you can imagine how they that stuff is. But the code's available very much now. The code and
How much time do you spend on this?
so some of the inside code was in there, but I had to fix it up. So I spent like 3 days. So nowadays you do this. So that's like OpenGL, like media code. You kind of in stacks and things like that, and it's all part of one big rendering log code. If you're doing it today, you do it as post-processing code. Much easier actually. I don't know, maybe I should. I didn't think about that. I'll send an email. Anyone?
Given your perspective on it now, do you see like what is the value of archiving code that is 8 years from now? Again, no one probably be able to run. What do you see the value in doing that?
So the work I've done now will be available for as long as OpenGL works on Apple's platforms, which is guaranteed. It's always dedicated. So the day they get the OpenGL on their platforms is dead. So I don't know how long that will be, but there's no way you can fix it out without basically doing huge rewrites, and it's no longer the original project at that point.
So therefore, what do you see any value in the
Yeah.
archive?
Yeah, it's part of an experiment. So the museum see the whole thing as they just look at the story and the documentation that goes with it, how it goes. It's just a massive learning exercise for them. I think that for the museum, having that archive with iPads and coded is what will preserve it forever. You know, as long as there's no corrosion on the iPads and things like that. But yeah, I mean, you're right, it will die eventually. I'll probably put it on life support for a few more years. There we go.
Mark, have they taken on any other archiving projects during that, that intermediate 8 years?
No, we didn't. It was their first and last one. They were pretty despondent about it. I was speaking with a lady called what's her name? Walkenstone, so I get her name. But they just given up on it completely. That they thought that the idea of using open source as a way to preserve code was just a really bad idea based on their experience. And like when they saw that, they were completely shocked. They couldn't believe it.
And then there are other institutions that have taken on the archiving concept, digital archiving.
So they do have somebody at the Smithsonian Museum now. His name is Ben. It's interesting person to follow. It's a little bit of Ben, and he basically takes care of all of the museum's digital stuff. So source code planetary is one of those digital things, but they actually have like electrical projects and things like that, installations. And he's kind of like their go-to person for making all that stuff work. And one of the links I gave at the end of the talk is a blog post from him talking about the server planetary. Cheers.
Thanks so much, first two speakers. They were really fantastic talks. Before we go into a short break, is anybody looking for work or is hiring and wants to give it a short chat?
Hi everybody, I'm Carl from CBA. You might know me from previous incidents like I've been able to log into CocoaHeads today. CocoaHeads is also looking for a senior, we have open roles for iOS and Android engineers, working across CocoaHeads and with a fairly large team with an amazing team at CocoaHeads that is very supportive. We've got Sean here, just want to give it a wave. He's one of our leads at CocoaHeads. He's recently joined and either of us are happy to help out. Also, the best way is to Google CDA careers and the expression of interest form, and somebody will get in contact.
Hi everyone, I'm Bryce. I work at Safety Culture and we hire for Monday. So just reach out to me. We're hiring more levels. So, yeah. Hey guys, I just spoke to you. So it's going to help us our residential data in South Africa. It's answering because I think we look at hiring all kinds of engineers right now, juniors and girls, senior engineers. We're growing our team. We've got a few students on our team here right now. It's a really good time to influence the way that we can work in the future. Seniors as well. All right, and so we'll take a short break. We'll be back in about 10 minutes.
Right.
Alright, everyone, can stop taking your seats. We'll get started with Python in just a minute.
Jonah.
Sorry.
Hey, Tom. You are. I don't know you.
I've met you before somewhere. Alright, thank you, everyone. Hopefully, we're back with a panel now to talk all about last week's WWDC. Alright, we're getting feedback that the YouTube live stream is actually really difficult to hear. And to there's a bit of background noise, so we're just trying to stay quiet. Hopefully it's a bit better for people at home now. Alright, anyway, so here's the panel to talk about WWDC things. It's going to be really informal. We do have some prepared questions, but if any time anyone in the audience wants to ask something, just give me a yell. We'll ask it to the panel. So I'm going to introduce everyone now. We've got Dan, and we've got Tran, and we've got Tom. So thank you for agreeing to be on the panel. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to get started with the really obvious question, and because we have on my ground, I'll probably just pass it down the panel and everyone can answer as we go. But async await, what are your initial thoughts, and when are you going to start using it if you haven't already?
Okay, so the async await stuff is really exciting. I guess like many of you in the audience, I already use, and we at Maine already use functional reactive programming libraries, such as reactive Swift, and of course there is some overlap with Combine, right? So the nice thing about async await is, if especially if you're new to FRP stuff, a lot of these the functional reactive way that say, just as one example, if you want to log in a user and do that as an asynchronous request, and you want to follow that up with an image request, for example, and put it in an image, that's a very natural fit FRP libraries. And if we see some async await examples, if you were to convert the complex, scary FRP way of doing that to async await, it's basically like writing a sequence. It's really nice, it's really agreeable, it's really approachable. It's like any other bit of Swift for synchronous program. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think I also agree as well. It's async and await and async is really cool and it's really fascinating. If you use like Combine or RF Swift before, then probably you feel like, oh, this feature is like, oh, it's really easy to read and you can follow the flow as well. But then I think if you like, let's say different developers like C#, they already know this feature. So it's really easy to adapt in Swift. Yeah. But then it's also like, it's a language version. It's not like iOS version. So probably we can use it soon. If like Apple say they can support like compatible backward, like they can support like older version of Swift, then we probably can go for it. Yeah.
People on the wrong panel because they're much smarter than I am. I think it's really cool. I think I think in terms of coding and trying to teach people how to code, including myself, that because it's linear, I think it's fundamentally a huge improvement. I would expect that sort of the overhead of coding for people in general will become a lot lower overhead. So that will be really interesting and a lot less repetition because a lot of this sort of multiple error handling, you fail, yes, in a period of time. My question to the smarter people like the next is, so sort of piggybacking on what you just said, do you think that it will be deployable for versions prior to iOS 15?
I think it's because it's language, like it's not like OS version. So if like we just hope one day Apple say they will support like all the versions of Swift, then we can compile and we can like go for iOS 14 or something, just like hope.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just to answer this question. As to when we can realistically use it, the point is it's being explored by the people at Apple trying to get it working on all the iOS versions. Fingers crossed they do succeed. There's a lot of passionate feedback in the Swift forums. You should be following that discussion. So understandably, there's a lot of challenges. Apparently, it does need a lot of runtime support. So yeah, I guess fingers crossed that they figure something.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in there that the extent of my async await usage was on the sort of half an hour training ride today. But you can do the basic async await stuff and have it compile in earlier versions, but as soon as you get into the wrapping older code or sort of manually handling the try and throws and stuff, that's when you're going to run into problems. Like I think there's that async function you can call to just kind of turn synchronous code into async code, and that requires iOS 15. So there's certain things that you can't use. I don't know to what extent, but yeah, it's limited at the moment, to say at least. So very, very simple one, just quickly shoot down panel for this one. How soon will you be able to drop support for iOS 14 projects you use daily? Or so you can work on it?
Yeah, so here are the main. We want at least to support the most recent 2 iOS versions at a minimum. So I guess that's a year or 2 out from now. Also, people are working on personal projects. I'll try and be as fast as I can, but realistically, we have to support all the versions. So a year or 2 out.
I think the same as well. Like probably now people still using iOS 14, but probably 1 year or 2 years later, everyone upgrades to iOS 15, then you can start thinking of it. Depends on how many users are using your app.
Okay, so I disagree with everybody. So back what we used to have, my saying with WWDC used to be, look, everybody go and watch the WWDC, people on the team, go and watch the WWDC video this year out of interest. But if you want to know what we can do this year, go back 2 years and watch the WWDC from 2 or 3 years ago, and that's what we can do. The biggest non-announcement from WWDC this year, they didn't mention it as far as I could tell, was that, wait for it, dramatic pause, iOS 15 supports the same hardware as iOS 14 and iOS 13. Right? You're welcome. So that means that whatever we wanted to support from 2 years ago is the same as now, right? So you have to have a phone that's over 6 years old for it not to work with iOS 15. So for any new project I'm doing now, I'm not even going to do iOS 13 or iOS 14. Why would I? Because the hardware that a customer uses that supports iOS 13 will also support iOS 15. So for me, it's a no-brainer. And as we heard from Phil's talk earlier, projects that are over 80 years old are in a museum. So in my head, I'm thinking, look, if we're supporting, we've got support for devices that are up to 6 years old, why are we even rewriting stuff not in script UI or not in combine or not in a single way? It's going to take me at least 3 months to write anything down. So the iPhone and iOS 15 will be out by then. So I think it's a very different baseline this year than what it was 3 years ago. You don't have to wait anymore. A 6-year-old phone will run the latest, as opposed to previously it would be a 3 or 4-year-old phone. So there you go, there's the contribution.
Cool. I actually want to keep it with Tom, and we'll shuffle this way back up the panel. But what does your use of combine look like now with async wait? Does that change anything for you?
I like hearing the other answers first. That's a very good question. I've invested sort of the last couple of years because I jumped on the SwiftUI and combine bandwagon a while back and have done a couple of apps that are on the App Store. And it was a year ago, I think we were hoping to get async wait, and it didn't happen. And now it's out now. And now I'm sort of looking at my combine code and thinking, would I replace some of that? Would I keep it? I don't really have that sort of nested period of doom in my code. But certainly for, yeah, I really have to think about it. I don't have a prepared answer to that one. Smarter people?
So I actually implemented like one app using the combine and SwiftUI, and I found like combine is really cool. And when I look at like the new Swift 5.5 async and wait, I feel like okay, I may like spend a little bit more time to actually like implement and support this kind of thing and refactor the whole application as well. So probably just like stay a little bit longer with the existing app and then see how it's going from now.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I've also made an app of my own, just a demo app to play with combine. And comparing to the examples that Apple's provided, really simple stuff. For the simple use cases, it looks like you can pretty much say for the login and fetch user and image example like I gave before. Yeah, I'll probably do that in a simple way. It's just a more natural way of writing it. But there's more complicated scenarios where the composable publisher stuff in combine, for example. If you want to combine latest that the past these publishers are going to combine them in all sorts of different ways, sequence them. Doing that with async wait, sure you can, but you probably need a lot of scaffolding work like you need to make stuff, right? And combine kind of gives you that. So combine I predict combine will be more of a specialized, more of a, if you need the flexibility and the complexity that it has, it makes sense to use it. But for the simpler stuff, fetch user, log user read, observe notifications, and why not use async wait, why not use async sequence?
Yeah, cool. Nice, thanks. All good answers for that. All right, so this is kind of the last question on combine SwiftUI, all that kind of stuff, before we get into some other things. So, is SwiftUI production ready now? It's entering its 3rd year. What are your thoughts on that?
I haven't had a chance to deep dive into the iOS 15 iteration. If you're asking 13, no. 14, they fixed a lot of changes, but still missing a few things. 15 looks like they have a few really sorely missing features like auto refresh. That's very basic. I know that. Thank you. There's a few other views where initially I thought, wow, why wasn't that there in iOS 13? But if they continue on the thing 14, fix the critical bugs, that's like step 1. And then add all these nice to have missing features. It looks like this might be the year where you might start making a few things. We'll see.
Yeah, I think SwiftUI is now quite mature enough, but there's some issue like UI scroll view. I mean, some scroll view still have issues. But then because SwiftUI was introduced in like 2019, and from now it's like almost 3 years, and from iOS 13 until now like iOS 15, I think it's quite mature enough. But then you need to work like some issue you need to fix manually, like scroll views and things, and you need to fix it by yourself.
That's what that power. What's the question? SwiftUI. Yeah, well, you'd be no surprise to hear that I'm an advocate for it. I just don't like writing dead code. So it's kind of like listening to Kamal talk before about C++. Or Objective-C, like, and I think I think there's a fundamental shift with Swift UI, you know, they talk about the clarity of the lab, and I kind of pretend to understand what it means. But we're just describing like what the app will do, and then leaving it to Apple to write the implementations for different platforms and so on. So when we're writing something with a list, we're kind of leaving it up to Apple to implement that for an iPhone, an iPad, TV, Mac, whatever. So it's a fundamental shift there. So I'm not surprised that there are missing platform-specific things like the pull to refresh and the search and all that. Still a pain, but I'm not surprised. But I started working on production apps in iOS 13 that went to the App Store. We supported iOS 13.4. So they fixed a lot of bugs in that range. Had the choice to go to iOS 14, but there was nothing quite compelling at that time, but we could have, because again, it was no brainer because we didn't deprecate any particular devices. So I kind of look at it like that. But one, this is the future. Any code that I write now in UI kits specifically is immediately technical debt. And I really don't like writing technical debt. So I would rather fill the gap that Swift UI has. So if I have to write my own pull to refresh or pull one off the internet or whatever, or simply wrap it in a UI hosting controller. So where I have to fall back to UI kit in the meantime, that's okay. But I really don't want to write a whole app in pre-Swift UI because I know what I'm going to be doing in 2 years from now is rewriting it. So why would I bother? So my answer is yes. I think absolutely we should be using Swift UI now. It supports devices up to 6 years old. If any of our customers have got devices older than that, it's going to be cheaper to buy the new phones than to keep writing in the old code and then refactor it all. There you go.
So has BFW job year been updated to support Swift UI?
That's a very good question. It's independent of that. It doesn't. So the question from my heckler at the moment is getting vengeance from us, who inherited some of my legacy code, I think in the iPad for content, is asking if some of the code I wrote there is supported in Swift UI. That's a very good question. I don't have a canned answer, but I think there are different levels. So it was a clever question, but I don't have a very clever answer.
Thanks. All right, so shifting gears a little bit, one of the things that I was most excited about at WWDC was the re-emergence of Buddy Build in the form of Xcode Cloud. So I'm wondering what your CI setups look like at the moment and how Xcode Cloud looks to you. Like, do you think you'd integrate with it? Is it just kind of interesting there in the background now? But what are your initial thoughts on all that?
For us on the iOS standard domain, we use GitHub Actions. We moved across fairly recently, and we use Fastlane to automate the process where possible. So in terms of Xcode Cloud, we can compare it to Fastlane. Fastlane is obviously very widely used, has an incredible number of features and a great community back in it. But when Xcode versions get upgraded or when the App Store Connect API changes and things break, the Fastlane developers basically have to play catch up, right? So it breaks, people complain GitHub issues, it's broken, what happened, please help me, or Xcode 14 or 13 comes out and it's just more of the same, right? But if you have Apple and they're basically vertically integrated, right? They control the API, they control Xcode, they control cloud infrastructure, they control the entire ecosystem. I think there's an opportunity for them to make the whole process more streamlined. So when something breaks, it's within Apple, right? So Apple developer A can just tap Apple developer B on the shoulder, X broke, please fix it. And hopefully this all happens by the time they release the final version, right? Maybe not, but we'll see. But with Fastlane, they just don't have that advantage. They're like a third-party open source project, right? So there's always going to be a bit of catch-up. Xcode Cloud is the opportunity that problem can be solved. It's vertically integrated. You don't have this catch-up in your own. So there's an opportunity.
Yeah, I think I just add your point is actually I think Xcode Cloud is just like support for iOS or just macOS, whereas we can use like other CI/CD for like both platforms like iOS and Android as well. So at CBI we have GP, we actually do the whole thing. So we are using Crossline as well, and then Team City. Yeah, so Xcode Cloud is cool, but then I think it's just like it probably will be pricey, of course. And yeah, but then because it's belong to Apple, so it will be like good for all the test device and all that stuff. Probably they have like devices farm, so where we can do the build and then push to all the devices in test as well. So it's very convenient for developer who don't actually know how to do CI/CD. So it's good tool.
I hate CI/CD pipelines and all that stuff. Like I got into UI coding because I think as a customer you should have multiple choice. You should be able to open up an app and go, what are the 4 things out that I want to do, rather than writing like a DOS prompt and knowing in your head what you have to type. And CI/CD is like that to me. It's like I have to know stuff. There's not multiple choice. So anything Apple can do to get rid of that difficulty for me is a win. So if they can wrap it in a nice UI and I just click go and it figures out provisioning profiles and all that, that's awesome. But, I'm sorry if this goes into a future question, I'm not sure if this is covered by this one. I love the idea of doing code review that brings you into the code, because my syntax checker in Bitbucket is hopeless. Right, so like I write, maybe you should try this code, but I can't compile in Bitbucket. So I love that it will, research, take you to the point, and you can see the actual code, highlight the VS Code, syntax stuff, and even show you where that breakpoint is. Back to your question. So BSW brought is a thing to make icons tell me if this rings a bell, to make icons that you could scale and they would reach all perfectly, and you could color different parts and it would reach all perfectly like vectors. Of course, now we have symbols, and with symbol 3, we don't need to do that anymore. So I'm glad that Apple caught up.
Yeah, I would just like to call out. I think as Fran said already, for the younger people out there, the Buddy Build used to support both iOS and Android before it got acquired by Apple, and Apple dropped support for Android. So I think, in my view, Apple is missing an opportunity here where it could have developed a system for multi-platform CI instead of just iOS and Android. And I just iOS and limiting this themselves just to Apple community. So I guess a bit Buddy Build similar for both iOS and Android would have been maybe a better product.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think Tran touched on a good point about who knows what it's going to cost, right? I really hope that the small projects of the hobbyists at least is pretty going and have a play around, and similar to Buddy Build or something like that. 30%. I'm not 30%. You're gonna make up the 15% maybe back last year. No, we'll see. It'll be interesting, and hopefully get some talks next day cloud at future CocoaHeads in the next couple of months as people start to dig in and play around. Yes, that's a call to action. All right, so on to everyone's favorite topic, and that is accessibility. What accessibility features, if any, do you use on your own devices? I know for myself, I have the font cranked up a little bit higher, but that's mostly it.
It's my sound is strange. If anything, I like turning text sizes down so I get more on screens. So probably the inverse of that. But yeah, personally, I just have Butler and that's it. That's sorry, the other question was
what do you use? Yeah,
right.
I personally didn't use anything, but then I was introduced by Sabrina. She actually used like magnifying. Yes, she used that one to actually read the text, take the photos, and then she can zoom in, zoom out the text. Yeah, that's really cool.
When I was at Combank, this terrible thing happened to me. I had to start wearing these. This is a 40th birthday present for most of you who aren't 40 yet. So I went from 20/20 vision to I can't see anything that's closer than this, like an iPhone, which is my career now. So that was a problem. So I'm very aware of at least a small part of accessibility. If anyone puts my code in font that's smaller than body, look out. unless it's like a, an access label, 1, 2, 3, 4 or something.
Legal disclaimer.
Sorry?
Legal disclaimers.
Yeah, yeah. So on my phone, I have reluctantly upped it to Zoom. I have one of the bigger phones, and I also have the triple tap to make the text bigger, in case I don't have my glasses. But unfortunately, it's about focal distance, so it still barely helps. But yeah, that's what I have. I have dark mode just for fun.
Cool, that's good to know. Dark mode's good fun. All right, so do you include accessibility as part of your development workflow or any design workflow? And if not, have you thought about how accessibility could benefit traffic?
The extent of this is when we do the actual layout part of our views, we try not to assume any fixed sizes or any fixed margins, but obviously we will do a job of this as a team. But generally, try not to paint ourselves into a corner. Like we're going to assume this thing will only ever be one line. This thing will always have this much space. We will always have the full screen of the iPhone 11 Pro or whatever the smallest device happens to be at any given time. So the extent is we try not to paint ourselves into a corner. It's how the layout automatically adapts to whatever the environment is.
Yeah, at CBA, we actually really take seriously, take accessibility seriously. We have the whole team, Honeycomb team, to actually implement all the components, and they also is a part of our development as well. So every feature when we release, we actually have to test accessibility on large text font size and all that stuff. Even we use dynamic type as well.
What are we talking about? Accessibility.
No, I already said that.
No, that's right. They hold around there. Yeah, certainly scalability. I think one of the main conversations I have that's unexpected that comes into accessibility is when there's a design that has non-standard controls, which there's an argument for and against, it's a case by case. One of the discussions I have with product is, okay, if we use the built-in Apple thing, we get accessibility for free. If we do this custom whiz-bang thing here, then we need to build accessibility into that as well, and there's a cost for that. And certainly enterprise apps over the last couple of years, I'm not a legal person, but I hear there are all these sort of legal murmurings about we are required now to include accessibility support. So one of the main things we do is try to make it as easy as possible. So using standard components, I think one of the things that we announced in iOS 15, perhaps particular to Swift UI, was sort of better custom accessibility support, that you can kind of grab accessibility on a standard element and pitch it onto your own element. Yeah, that's all of it.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how Swift UI is kind of designed with accessibility first in mind, how a lot of things are accessible out of the box, just being so that's pretty cool. I'll just turn it over to you. Does anyone have any questions? Anything about WWDC or accessibility or anything else that you'd like to ask about? Yes.
A couple of things back on the support for OSs and which tools. Yes, I agree about they support phones that go back 6 years, but I happened to look at the stuff today, Mixpanel, which is a pretty good numbers, said it was about 4% of devices are running pre-13. But it did have about 4% were running 13. So they are all capable, all the 13 devices can run 14. So you go, oh, we'll go to 14, you've immediately lost 4%. So we can't necessarily expect that because people can upgrade, they will. But the accessibility, the kind of, maybe we need to deal with this. There's some level, something that's been a 28-year-old legal requirement that all apps must support accessibility. You can get taken to the cleaners and you will lose the lawsuits if your apps are not accessible. So probably should all think about it.
I'll take that as a comment. So to your first part, I think that's an interesting metric because usually the conversation goes something like, developer says, well, hey, can we please deprecate older whatever, and then product goes and looks and comes up with a stat like that and says, oh, but we've got a large part of our customers that are still using iOS 12 or whatever. The follow-up question has to be, don't tell me what iOS they're using, tell me what device they're using. Because if they're using an iPhone 6 but running iOS 12, when our new version of the app comes out, it just means that they need to update to iOS 13 or 15, because I can go straight to 15 for that. So then I think that's a better metric. I think it needs to measure is your hardware and that all.
I agree. The 4% pre-13 can't go past 12. There are 4% running 13 that can go to 14 that haven't.
Right. Cool. That's, yeah, just that distinction. Yeah.
So
Buy the new phone.
that's the time. We've got a phone that runs 14 and will run 15. But there are 4% who haven't updated. So we put in a 14 feature. How do you know, you're stuck. They won't update.
Actually, I have experience on that one. We actually send out all the notification to customer, and we have to encourage them to update or like say, hey, it's quite old version, and then it's, you will lose a lot of features as well. So actually, I work on ad ages, and then they still support like iOS 9, and then I have to lock that one. I mean, I need to keep that old version for a year, and I keep asking the customer, hey, you are on old version. Yeah.
I guess I'll just add to that. Yeah, it is a good point that people, they may have the option to upgrade, but they won't necessarily. We will have our own metrics here. And there are quite a few people who, for one reason or they just don't upgrade, and we can only speculate as to why. Maybe some people have an aversion, maybe they heard from a friend, oh, I was 15 is this and that, so don't upgrade. Oh, I read this blog on the internet that said bad things will happen if you upgrade. For any reason, it doesn't necessarily need to be a valid reason. They choose not to. You've lost it, that's it.
I work with Dan on the Mac mobile backend. I can tell just from looking at the logs that we do have active iOS 7 users, which best case, I think they have an iPhone 6. So that's quite a lot, right?
Yeah.
That's old.
Anyway, all right. So, sorry, was there another question? Yeah, no.
Is it specifically about promises and futures, or just general?
You have a preference on the basic way, basically. No,
Just Ripple dispatch queue main async.
Run everything on main asynchronous, right?
So I'm fundamentally lazy. So I've used Combine for all that sort of stuff. I will jump on the async awake bandwagon in a flash if when I compare the code, it's fundamentally simple. I suspect that, like you said, Dan, that when it comes to pipelines, that I think Combine will probably win. But certainly, like, why would I now look for an alternative? Like, I don't want to make my life hard, so I would jump on the async awake bandwagon.
I'm actually born again iOS developer. Been working in Xamarin for the last 6 years or so. Dabbled in F#, and I looked at the way that Kotlin works. F# started a bandwagon model with a particular way of doing async. C# popularized it in 2005, and Kotlin's come along and they use coroutines, which is basically the C++ way of doing it. And it's a bit like thread fork join, but not using threads if you don't have to. And I have Swift. But the really good thing about the way it does it in C# is that you write the code and the compiler takes that code and turns it into a state machine. So you don't have to worry about any of the implementation details because the compiler takes care of everything for you. If it does like that in Swift, it'll be very good. They can use dispatch queues under the hood and they do whatever they like, but it'll be done in the same way every time and it'll be compiler generated, so it just works. C# has some idiosyncrasies because you can actually achieve deadlock with async await. It's really easy and you don't want to do it, but if you do it the wrong way, you can deadlock the whole code. So async is not possible. And I suspect that combined with promises and the other things, it would actually probably work more transparently. But you've got to pay the price of being willing to think backwards about the code. The really good thing about async await is that it reads like a book. I think the pilot takes care of the details. That's the reason why I really like it. And I have avoided Swift until now.
Sounds like we've got some async await then. Cool. All right. And last question to round out panel for tonight. So what have you liked about WWDC in its remote format for the last couple of years, and how do you think, or what would you like to see from an in-person conference going forward? I know personally, I think it would be really cool to keep the online labs in some form or another, not exclusively online, but if maybe the engineers time was split between in-person and online, so that in the years I didn't attend or the years I couldn't attend or whatever that might be, can still partake in those via a video call 3 in the morning or whatever that looks like. So what do you all think?
Yeah, so regarding the online learning thing, I think a great thing about it is that it makes it that much more accessible because you have people who can attend in person, possibly paying for plane tickets. The ticket itself to attend, which is like $2,000, is something crazy. And if you're paying for a hotel in San Francisco, it's not cheap. Now, I have the privilege of domain set me in 2016 and they paid for expenses, so I'm very grateful for that. That said, I'm conscious there are a lot of people who either don't have that privilege and they don't want to, rightfully don't want to spend a lot of money to fund their own trip there. So the accessibility thing is nice. I was going to say one of the nice things to have was the fact that in 2016, I basically talked to the person who implemented the content layout and asked all these questions about performance characteristics. And the person who implemented it just told them all these, because you wouldn't say that online on the documentation. You always find details, all these tips and tricks straight from the person who implemented. That's great. But apparently you can actually book lab sessions with the Apple developers. So I guess it depends on if it's just a lottery or how difficult it is to get a one-on-one session, or I guess if they open up to as many people as possible, that would be fantastic. To talk to the people who implement the framework to use that'd be great.
I went to WWDC once. It was the year that ended with Tim Cook going, and one more thing, we're getting rid of Objective-C and we're doing Swift. Everyone's jaws dropped to the floor. And I remember on at least one of the days, I went, I can't possibly fit in this and this. I know what to do. I'll go back to my hotel room and watch the one I missed yesterday online because I don't need to work in this one. So I kind of like the online format. I think the actual attendance of the talks, I think, doesn't really suffer from it being online versus, I think it's all the other stuff, perhaps. So things like the labs and being able to corner people, the networking, the party in the park, the submarine band. So yeah, I think they're two different things. I don't think the talks will be like just being online.
Yeah, there's really something to be said for being in a lab and, you know, the engineer kind of pausing and saying, I'm the perfect person you speak to, hey, and grabbing your attention. That is pretty cool, but it's not based on that. Yeah, completely agree about the sessions. They, you know, they're just and nice and short as well. And they don't need to be too long. That's pretty cool. All right, well, thank you for participating in the panel. It's been really good. And thank you to the audience and everyone for coming along.
thanks to everyone at Domain for hosting us tonight. It's been awesome. And we'll see you all next time. So thanks everyone. Get on